So, have you ever stopped and wondered how we actually get a machine to think? I don't mean just crunching numbers, but actually learning, figuring out complex things, almost like a human brain does. Well, the secret isn't just about raw computing power, it's about a tiny but brilliant piece of math that makes the whole thing work. Okay, so let's get right into it. The whole idea behind most of the AI we talk about today, what we call artificial neural networks, is to basically copy the structure of our own brains. We're trying to build this digital web of interconnected nodes, or neurons, that are all inspired by the real biological ones, passing information back and forth. But look, before we can understand the entire network, we've got to zoom way in and look at the most basic building block, just one single artificial neuron. And it all kicks off with some really, really simple math. At first, a single neuron's job seems surprisingly straightforward. It takes in a piece of information, an input, we'll call it X, and it just performs a couple of quick calculations on it to spit out an output Y. Here's how that works. First, the neuron multiplies that input by something called a weight. Now, you can think of the weight as a volume knob. It tells the neuron just how important that particular signal is. A really high weight means, hey, pay close attention to this. Then it adds a bias, which is kind of like giving the result a little nudge, making it just a bit more or a bit less likely to fire. And that's the formula, right there on your screen. Y equals X times W plus B. Just multiplication and addition. This simple equation is called a linear transformation. So at its core, a neuron is just doing this very predictable math. But, and this is a big but, that simplicity is also its biggest weakness. It leads to a couple of massive problems. And yeah, this is exactly where our simple little model starts to completely break down. Because this basic calculation, all by itself, has a huge, fundamental flaw. Problem number one, the output Y is totally unbounded. It can be any number you can think of, from a tiny fraction all the way up to a number so huge it's basically heading towards infinity. There are no guardrails at all. So why is that a bad thing? Well, just try to imagine building a system with millions or even billions of these neurons, and the numbers they're spitting out just keep exploding. It becomes an absolute computational nightmare. The whole system gets slow, crazy expensive to run, and just incredibly difficult to manage. But honestly, that's not even the worst part. Here is the real deal breaker. A network that's only built on this simple linear math can only understand simple linear relationships. It's great at learning how to draw a straight line through data, but that's about it. And the real world, recognizing your friend's face, understanding a joke, driving a car, none of that is made of straight lines. So we're stuck, right? We need a way to rein in those runaway numbers and give our network the power to learn all the complex, messy, nonlinear patterns of the world. So how do we solve this? We solve it with our hero ingredient. This is the secret sauce we were talking about at the very beginning, the activation function. So what is an activation function? It's just a second mathematical step. It's an equation that takes the result of that first simple calculation we saw, and it transforms it one last time before deciding what the neuron's final output is going to be. So the whole process looks like this. Step 1, the neuron weighs its inputs. Step 2, it adds them up with the bias. And then, here it is, the crucial third step, activate. This is where the activation function makes the final call about what signal, if any, gets passed on to the next neuron in the chain. A really great way to picture this is to think of it as a gatekeeper. It looks at the signal coming in and decides, is this important enough to open the gate and let it through? Or you could think of it like a dimmer switch for a light, dialing the strength of the signal up or down before it moves on. So what does this gatekeeper actually accomplish? Well, this is the cool part. It solves both of our big problems at the exact same time. And in doing so, it completely unlocks the true power of AI. First, it totally tames that infinity problem. Before, as we saw, the output could be any number under the sun, but the activation function acts like a funnel, squishing that output into a neat, predictable range. A lot of the time, it's just between 0 and 1. This keeps the whole network stable and way, way easier for a computer to handle. But here it is. This is the magic trick. This is the most important job of the activation function. By applying this final little mathematical twist, it adds something called non-linearity to the system. And that, right there, that is everything. Non-linearity is what allows a neural network to finally learn the complex, curved, intricate, and messy patterns of the real world. It's the difference between only being able to draw a straight line and being able to recognize the subtle curves of a human face. It is the absolute foundation of deep learning. So when you step back and put it all together, the importance of this one small component becomes crystal clear. I love this quote because it just says it all perfectly. Without that nonlinear activation step, it doesn't matter how many layers or neurons you have. Your super sophisticated deep learning network is no more powerful than a basic statistical model, the kind that can only draw straight lines that you'd learn about in a Stats 101 class. So, at the end of the day, that's what they are. Activation functions are the essential ingredient that takes a neural network from being a simple calculator and turns it into a powerful, dynamic machine that's truly capable of learning. It's kind of amazing to think about, isn't it? These tiny little mathematical gatekeepers working away inside millions of artificial neurons are the real power behind the biggest breakthroughs in AI today. Which really just leaves us with one final thought. What incredible, complex problems will they help us unlock and solve tomorrow?